What's up, Niners fans? Buckle up because today's video is packed with updates you don't want to miss. And I mean real news, the kind that could shift how we're thinking about this upcoming season. We're diving into a couple of big developments, but let me kick things off with something that caught everyone by surprise. You might have seen the clip floating around, Brandon Aiyuk, all smiles, dancing solo at his own wedding. Yeah, at first glance it might seem like just a feel-good moment. But when you start to dig a little deeper, there's a lot more going on in that video than just good vibes. Let's talk about that for a second. Brandon Aiyuk just got married, and as expected, plenty of photos and videos are surfacing from the celebration. One of those videos, where he's out on the dance floor, clearly having the time of his life, has sparked some serious buzz, and not just because the guy's got moves. Watching him dance like that, move with confidence, and fully enjoy himself, that tells us something. It tells us a lot, actually, especially when you consider everything we know about his recovery from major injury. If you've been following closely, you know Aiyuk suffered both ACL and MCL injuries, which is no joke. But here's where it gets interesting. Before the season even ended, he was already spotted shooting hoops in the locker room, casually just draining shots with his teammates. That alone was a sign he was ahead of schedule. And now, seeing him move so freely at his wedding, it just adds to the growing evidence that his rehab is going very, very well. Now, let's break this down with some context. According to physical therapists and recovery experts, the standard timeline for coming back from an ACL injury, and this includes the added complication of the MCL, usually falls somewhere between 9 to 10 months. And in most cases, when both ligaments are damaged, they're repaired during the same surgical procedure. It's not like one heals while the other waits. They recover together, side by side. The tricky part is the initial recovery steps, especially in the first few weeks post-surgery. But once you get past that hump, the process tends to even out. And from everything we've been hearing, Aiyuk is right where he needs to be. Dr. Trash, one of the top names in sports medicine, has said he's progressing as expected. That's a big deal. Add to that the Niners' own training staff confirming he's on schedule, and it starts painting a very optimistic picture. If all goes according to plan, and he keeps trending upward, Aiyuk could be ready to suit up for Week 1. That's 9 months and 24 days post-injury, right in that sweet spot recovery window. And based on his current movement and training footage, that target date is starting to feel less like wishful thinking and more like an actual possibility. It's not just about optimism here. It's about what we're seeing with our own eyes. The footage doesn't lie. He's moving well. He looks balanced. He looks like himself again. That kind of body control doesn't come if you're still rehabbing at a slow pace. And look, we've been through enough injury reports to know the difference between a guy who's on schedule because people want to keep spirits up and a guy who actually looks ready. Aiyuk falls into that second category right now. And let's not forget, we've got precedent here. Stefon Diggs, who dealt with a similar injury, bounced back strong. He's a bit older than Aiyuk, and his recovery had fewer complications, but the comparison is still relevant. Recently, footage of Diggs running a full-speed route surfaced, and it was impressive. The guy didn't just look healthy. He looked sharp, explosive, and confident. In that video, his coach tells him not to go all out, and yet Diggs just powers through like nothing's holding him back. That's the kind of mental and physical edge you want to see from someone coming off a serious injury. And if Diggs can do it, there's no reason to believe Aiyuk can't either, especially given his age, his work ethic, and the support system around him. Of course, nothing is guaranteed in this league, especially when it comes to injuries. But it's about trends, and all the trends around Aiyuk are pointing in the right direction. Watching him celebrate, watching him interact with teammates, watching him move, it's all reassuring. And the Niners need that reassurance. Not having Aiyuk at full strength toward the end of last season was a major blow. Even when he was on the sideline, his presence wasn't felt the way it usually is. He's not just a piece of the puzzle. He's one of the central pillars of this offense. Now, even if he isn't clear to go full speed in Week 1, just having him participating in training camp, getting reps, being around the playbook, the coaches, the locker room, that matters. That's how chemistry is built. That's how timing gets dialed in with the quarterback. And let's be real, with how physical this league is, every bit of prep time counts. So if Aiyuk can get in the building, work with the trainers, get into some early drills, even in a limited capacity. That's a win for this team. We saw something similar with Christian McCaffrey last year. People were watching every clip, every drill, trying to figure out just how ready he was. And guess what? He came back strong. The same thing could very well happen here. And while we don't need to revisit every reason fans are already feeling good about McCaffrey's role going forward, it's worth noting that the vibe is kind of similar. There's a cautious optimism growing around Aiyuk, a feeling that even if week 1 is a bit too soon, week 2 or 3 might not be. That he'll be back, not just eventually, but soon. And that's what this team needs. Because make no mistake, this upcoming season isn't going to be easy. The challenges are stacking up. The competition in the NFC is intense. And for the Niners to make the kind of deep postseason run fans are dreaming of, they'll need everyone healthy, everyone locked in, and everyone ready to hit the ground running. Aiyuk being ahead of schedule doesn't just change the offense, it changes the energy around this team. It brings momentum. And right now, that's exactly what the Niners are looking for. Now hang tight, because we've got another situation brewing that could seriously impact the team's strategy for the NFL draft, and it involves a quarterback whose injury might shift everything. But before we get into that, let's talk about the other big storyline, one that's starting to ripple through the fan base and could shake up the front office's entire approach to the NFL draft. I'm talking about the growing concern surrounding Brock Purdy and the fact that, even now, months after the season ended, the team still hasn't confirmed a long-term extension or even spoken publicly about where he stands physically. On the surface, everything's quiet. Too quiet. And when you start to connect the dots, especially with how much is riding on the quarterback position, it's hard not to feel like something's off. Let's rewind for a second. After the 49ers' brutal playoff exit, we all expected the offseason to bring clarity. But what we've gotten instead is radio silence. No contract talk. No hard updates from Shanahan. No firm commitment from Lynch. Just vague comments and a lot of speculation. And when it comes to your starting quarterback, the guy who just led you to another deep playoff run, that silence is loud. Here's what's strange. Purdy had a phenomenal year, all things considered. He bounced back from elbow surgery and came out slinging. He showed poise, grit, and the kind of playmaking that made him one of the most efficient QBs in the league. By the end of the regular season, he had earned the full trust of the locker room, the coaching staff, and most of the fan base. But then came the playoffs, and after a strong start, things started to wobble. The NFC Championship was a gut punch, and since then, there's been this lingering sense of hesitation, like maybe the 49ers are taking a wait-and-see approach before fully hitching their wagon to him. Now, that would make some sense if we had a clearer picture of what was happening behind the scenes. But again, it's the lack of transparency that makes this feel different. And that's where the draft conversation comes in. Because if the 49ers aren't 100% sold on Purdy being the long-term guy, or if there's even a sliver of doubt about his durability, then suddenly, taking a quarterback becomes a much more real possibility. Let's be honest, nobody wants to have this conversation. We all want Brock to be the guy. He's humble, tough, efficient, and he's already shown he can win. But the 49ers have lived through the nightmare of not having a healthy QB when it matters. They've seen a Super Bowl slip away because of injuries. They've watched entire playoff runs unravel in the blink of an eye. So you better believe that when they sit down in those draft meetings, they're not just looking at wide receivers or cornerbacks or edge rushers. They're talking about quarterbacks. They have to. And if you look around the league, it's not hard to see why. The teams that stay competitive year after year, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, they have stability at quarterback. That's what separates the contenders from the pretenders. So even though the Niners aren't picking early in the first round, they're in a position where they could take a swing on a QB if the right guy falls. And with the way this draft is shaping up, there's a chance a few names might slide. Maybe someone like Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, or even a wild card like Spencer Rattler later on. These aren't perfect prospects, but they've got traits worth developing. And in San Francisco's system, with Shanahan's playbook and all the weapons around them, that's a good environment for a young quarterback to sit, learn, and maybe, just maybe, become the safety net this team hasn't had since Jimmy Garoppolo's first run. Now let's add another layer, the contract clock. Brock Purdy is still on his rookie deal. That's gold for a team like this. Elite talent on defense, high-priced veterans on offense, and a quarterback making pennies in comparison. That kind of setup gives you flexibility. But that window won't last forever. Eventually, Purdy's going to want a payday. And if the front office has any doubts, if they're even slightly unsure that he's the long-term guy, they'll start preparing now. That's just smart business. And this isn't about creating a quarterback controversy. It's about protecting the most important position in football. Because no matter how loaded your roster is, if your quarterback goes down, you're toast. We saw it last year. We've seen it too many times. So whether it's a day 2 pick or even a flyer in the later rounds, don't be shocked if the 49ers grab a QB. Not as a challenge to Purdy, but as insurance. And maybe more than that. And I know what some of you are thinking. What about Sam Darnold? What about Trey Lance? Well, Darnold's gone, and the Lance chapter is over. They've cleared the room. They've committed to a reset behind Brock. But that room still needs depth. It still needs someone who can step in if disaster strikes. And if that guy happens to be a young rookie with a high ceiling, even better. Now, zooming out a bit, this draft is about more than just quarterbacks. The Niners have a real shot to make some high-impact picks this year. For once, they're holding a first-rounder, and that opens up a world of possibilities. Offensive line help? Absolutely. Secondary depth? Definitely in play. Another weapon for Brock? Wouldn't rule it out. But everything starts and ends with a quarterback. That's the axis everything else spins around. And that brings us back to the uncertainty around Brock Purdy. No official announcement. No extension talks. No behind-the-scenes leaks about how confident the team is in his long-term future. It's weird. It's unsettling. And it might be telling us more than they want to admit. Maybe he's still dealing with lingering elbow discomfort. Maybe we'll keep a close eye on every development as draft day gets closer. And when the picks start rolling in, we'll be right here breaking it all down. Every trade, every steal, every decision that pushes the Niners one step closer to that 6th Lombardi. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Fans across the NFL world are buzzing with excitement as rumors intensify around one of the most dominant defensive players of all time, Aaron Donald, potentially making an unexpected move to the San Francisco 49ers. The shockwaves of this possible signing are sending waves through social media, with sources close to the situation hinting that discussions have been ongoing for weeks. But why would the 49ers, with their already elite defensive lineup, make a move for Donald now? The answer might surprise you, and the latest developments could change the entire landscape of the NFC West. Despite retiring just months ago after an illustrious career with the Los Angeles Rams, where he won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards and became a Super Bowl champion, Donald's name is far from fading from the headlines. The 49ers have been aggressively looking to bolster their defense, and while many thought they would lean on their young stars, the allure of signing a player with Donald's pedigree is too enticing to ignore. With the NFL draft behind them, the 49ers could now be looking to complete a defensive masterpiece, and adding a legend like Donald could be the final piece they need to solidify their Super Bowl aspirations. The speculation has only grown after reports surfaced that Donald was in talks with multiple teams, including the 49ers, about a potential return to the league. Could this be the surprise comeback of the year? Fans and analysts alike are eagerly awaiting confirmation, with some even wondering if the 49ers defense could become even more formidable than ever before. One thing's for sure, if Aaron Donald ends up in San Francisco, the NFC West just got a whole lot more interesting. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.